Betty. Welcome to my kitchen. Although I posted my recipe for orange shortbread cookies some time ago, I've had a request for my traditional shortbread recipe, and here it is. It's a ½ pound of butter, a ¼ cup of sugar, which I'm going to process quickly to blend. You can do this in a mixer if you prefer. My butter was quite soft, so it blended quickly. Now I should mention, if you went to 20 different houses in Scotland, you would get 20 different shortbread recipes. Everyone has their own favorite. Some, as I do, incorporate some rice flour in the mixture. I know others who use semolina, and proportions vary also. What I have never ever seen used is vanilla. All right, I'm adding 2 1/4 cups of plain flour and 3/4 cup of rice flour. I find rice flour in the Latin section of my supermarket, and the brand I find is Goya. You may, of course, make this with all plain flour, but I find that the rice flour gives the shortbread a certain shortness, if you will. And we'll just blend this. Give this a mix to see if we can get a little more in there. That's pretty good. Of course, in the old days, this was all done by hand. All I'm going to do is dump this out on my perfectly clean counter, and I'm going to knead it by hand to get it to come together. As you can see, this is a rather shaggy mess at this point, so what I'm going to do is just knead it a little to get it all to come together more or less in a ball. Just about there. All right, what I'm going to do is shape this more or less into an oblong. And I'll show you 2 different ways of shaping it. To make the traditional shape, which is known as petticoat tails, I'm going to use a 7-inch tart pan. And I'm going to use approximately 1/3 of this dough to put in here. So obviously, if you wanted to make it all in this shape, you would need 3 of these. Just press it in as evenly as you can. Now that I have this all patted in place, I'm going to use the bottom of my measuring cup to just sort of smooth it out a little. Doesn't have to be perfect. Now that this is all patted in place, I'm using the side of a small knife to mark indentations all the way around. This just gives it that traditional look. Now to finish the traditional look, I'm going to prick this with a fork. I may have told you before that this is the very first thing I learned how to bake as a child. Shortbread, of course, was a huge treat. And when I grew up, which was in Scotland during the war, we would save our sugar rations all year to be able to make this at Christmas. And it was always a very special treat. There. We'll bake that off in just a moment. But before that, I want to show you another favorite way I have of doing this, which is in these small tart pans. And I just cut off a slice and press it in. These are non-stick, and I find the shortbread pops out quite easily when it's still slightly warm. You don't want to let it cool all the way in a pan before popping it out. And again, using the knife, just make the indentations. And I'm using a cookie cutter upside down. I'm going to press that in the center, and then like so. These are going to go into a 325-degree oven, and they will bake for about 20 to 25 minutes. You want the shortbread to just barely start to color. You don't want it brown. It should be quite pale. So we'll put it in the oven and let it go for, as I said, for about 20 minutes or so. My shortbread is cooked. It's just starting to take on some color. So I'm going to transfer it over to the stove to let it cool. While the shortbread is still hot, you want to sprinkle the tops with just a little sugar. For further information and even more recipes, please visit my website.